Trying to crack down on fraud. We've got a couple programs to learn about with Joe Patton. He's the director of Allen County Job and Family Services. And thanks for joining us, Joe.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Okay, let's talk about first the early detection program. What's that all about?
What that's about is years ago, the state had a program where we would kind of pre-screen applications before they came in. And there are some what we would call error-prone applications. Senator Matt Huffman saw the importance in kind of the keeping program integrity alive in Ohio and put $2.5 million to the counties across the state for that this year, for doing some type of new fraud activities. And we thought that would be a good program for us to resurrect, bring back. So here we are.
All right, so what kind of things are you looking for? I mean, I assume there are some things that just kind of stick out maybe. I mean, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so what the program will be was, if, for instance, if we see roughly 100 applications come through a day, probably 20 of those will get flagged as possible fraud type profile things. And it doesn't mean that the customer's committed any fraud, it just means that they're an error-prone profile. Maybe they have change of address, maybe they have like extra people living in their home, something like that might trigger that. What'll happen is one of our program integrity unit would be assigned to the case. From those cases, they would triage that down a little more to where we would maybe be going out on 10 of these a day. That investigator will just make a visit out to the house, go through the household, make sure everything's matching up with the application. Sometimes there's also times where it can bring good things to the customer too. Maybe they didn't realize that with their, extra child and, their adult child living in the house that they'd be eligible too for the program. So we'll either add people on or take people off the case based on whatever the findings are, and then submit that back to the caseworker with like a 24-hour turnaround.
Mm-hmm. So like in Allen County, how often do you think you'd be able to catch a case that really is someone who should not be getting some kind of benefit?
It happens more often than you thought. Right now we have a case up in the for pretrial right now that's over $22,000, where someone had businesses and other things they didn't tell us about, rental properties. So that would make them ineligible, because obviously we are kind of like your option of last resort. So we want people to spend down their money first and then come for assistance at that point. So being open and honest is what's most important with these applications, and we're hoping that helps bring more of that out. And we've also added training to our case managers to kind of help questions to draw these things out for folks.
Yeah, you mentioned the program integrity unit. Is that something new, and like what exactly are they the ones investigating then, just those folks?
Yes, that would be kind of our investigation unit / program integrity. We get they investigate all kinds of allegations. One of our biggest ones is when one of the adult members in the home gets income, that income may put them over resources. Well, lo and behold, suddenly they move out of the house at that point. We see those as kind of error-prone cases, so we're going to look at that. Did they really move out? Where's their new address at? Or was this something they did just to maintain their assistance because they saw they were going to close? Some of the other ones are food stamp trafficking and some of those other issues like that they investigate frequently. And we also get tax matches to the IRS and employers. So any employer in the state of Ohio, when you have someone, you have 10 days to turn in what's called a new hire report to the state. Those matches match up against our public assistance rolls, and it triggers a alert for us if they didn't tell us about it. So then we're going to be calling them and asking about their new employment and add that into their case.
Mm-hmm. So you're just trying to beef up things and make sure everybody's on the up and up and keep the system running smoothly when you talk about these kind of things.
Absolutely. We have a lot of citizens who are in great need of this in Allen County. We want to make sure the benefits are getting to the people in need as expeditiously as possible. And we want to put people on notice that if you are gaming the system, you're probably going to get caught in Allen County.
Right, exactly. What a good message. Joe, thanks very much for joining us today.
All right, thank you for having us.
All right, don't go away. Noon Edition continues in a moment.
Travel with seniors